Starvoid is a real-time strategy game that focuses on being very accessible. So I'm gonna start the game here. And there I'm joining. So yeah, it's very accessible. There. So yeah, this is what the game looks like. We want the game to be very easy to enter, to just jump in and jump out of. So it's gonna be drop in, drop out. So this piping in RTS. So it's gonna be only multiplayer, and it's gonna be 6 versus 6. So I'm gonna go ahead and just select a contract here, random pretty much. And so you're gonna have large teams, and we have no base building at all, so you just spawn with a commander. So that's pretty much your hero unit and a HQ in the same unit. So it is your commander that actually spawns units into combat. And you have a population cap and energy that limits your ability to spawn units fast and stuff like that. So, but then you just head out onto the battlefield and start capping points and fighting other players. So we're gonna try to keep the combats pretty much focused around the middle point here now, because we're only 4 players. And it makes the game a less more actiony than it normally is. So yeah, we want the game to just be very fast to jump into, and you see that this is my population cap, and I max it all up to just a minute or so. And this is because we want players to reach their maximum capability really fast. So I'm very bad at playing it, talking at the same time, so I'm gonna talk more and play less. So yeah, we want to keep the focus on being very fast to jump into the game, and so that you can spawn your units fast. And if my commander would die, which is also my HQ, all my units dies as well. So it's pretty much in other RTSs when your commander dies or when your HQ dies, but instead of losing the game, you just instantly respawn back in base, and then you can head back into combat and start playing again. So there's no like suffering in the last 15 minutes or so when you have to watch your base die. So just like this, I can change my contract if I want to counter my opponent's builds and stuff like that. So I'm gonna show you some other commanders. I'm gonna go through them soon.
I have the coordinates.
Each one of them. Or I could do it right away. So this is the infiltration commander. She focuses on stealth. There's gonna be several different commanders, but they are divided into 4 major classes at the moment. So stealth commanders relies on stealth. She can become invisible on the battlefield and backstab stuff and stuff like that. So for those players who enjoy being the assassin or just a scout, this is the commander for you. So where's the opponent at?
I have the coordinates.
So when I have this arsenal of different units, you can actually build your contracts, which we call them, the setup of different units and abilities that you have available. You can build this by yourself in the game's launcher, and so this is pretty much a loadout that you can build, and it gives you different options on the battlefield. So you can customize so that you can spawn the exact units that you want on the battlefield and use the abilities that you want and prefer, so that you can really match it with your playstyle.
I have the coordinates.
I'm gonna go ahead and be a bit brave, maybe get kills so I can show you the other commanders. But you're gonna have about 3 units, sometimes 2 if you go for expensive units, sometimes 4 if you go for the cheaper ones. And they have different abilities, and the gameplay is pretty much based on RTS. Where you have to use your units right and combine their abilities and stuff like that. Okay, I died. But it's all in a structure that's pretty much that from a FPS instead, like an arena game and stuff like that, so that you can just play for as long as you like, and when you don't want to play anymore, you just leave the game. So which commander haven't you seen? The ordnance commander. She relies on long-range combat, snipers and artillery and stuff like that. So this is pretty much the kind of commander that I like to play. I like to stay in the background and just take out my enemies from afar and dealing lots of damage. But if the enemy comes close, I'm pretty much done for.
you won't. Hear about there.
So
If you
yeah,
won't.
what I can do from now is on is
Hear
like
about there.
discussing the different commanders and different units.
If you
And
won't.
I don't know if you want to be too detailed about that.
Hear about
No, you
there.
can decide. Don't give away the farm. Oh,
If
the
you
cow with
won't.
the milk or something.
Hear about there.
I don't know.
Milk.
I messed up. I messed that up. But that's actually a question. As Unicom asks, how many commanders at launch, and will you launch more after? We don't need to be specific,
If you won't.
but we
don't.
can answer the question.
Hear about there.
Yeah, we're gonna have a minimum of 8 commanders for release.
And I told them not to be specific. That's fantastic.
Right as rain.
Okay, move on.
Or maybe less.
Well, actually, I will explain this. This is a thing when it comes to the developers. They really want to make stuff, and we all the time we talk to them when we're like, let's try to not promise too much, because if something happens and you can't promise that, they'll nail you to the wall for that. So what we generally try to, the secret rule we use is, have you seen Independence Day? Where the president asks the Secretary of Defense, Mr. Nimziki, how they could have kept Area 51 a secret for all those years, and he says 2 words, Mr. President: plausible deniability. And that's basically how you do marketing. So we talk about like commanders, and we'll definitely do commanders. I hope we can do 8. The more we can do, the better. But don't nail us to the wall if we do 7, basically. But yes, we'll do as many commanders as possible. So.
Yeah, but we're gonna start off with making those that we have in the game like as good and balanced as possible, and then we're gonna start out from there and start adding more commanders when we just have found more where the game is at and what's actually fun in the game and stuff like that. So
Exactly, there's nothing that says that 50 commanders is the way to go, right? We could have, we can find more fun points at a limited number, or maybe rotate those in a similar fashion as in League of Legends, for instance. We can actually segue into a couple more questions as you start the second round. We can also tell you that there are 4 players playing right now. It's Rasmus, Sebastian that you just met, Emil who's from Arrowhead, and Staffan, who's one of our producers. So this is a 2-on-2 game, right?
yep.
The game will ultimately support 6 versus 6 players, and that's something we actually can be specific about. So another question that we can move on to, and again, this is something that people find interesting, is inspiration. Somebody writes, is this a Dawn of War ripoff? It looks like a MOBA game, and yeah.
A MOBA game was never the intention. It ended up looking quite like it, but it's pretty much nothing like it. The only thing that's like it is the size of the teams, and that you have a hero unit, but the combat is very much about how you use your units, and we really wanted to make the gameplay like classical RTS, but having like a very easy structure so that players can, yeah, as I said, jump in and out as they want. So it has to be a huge focus on the commanders, because if they die, everything has to die.
Exactly. I mean, this game, we get a lot of questions about, okay, when the game is pitched, what kind of pitches do you guys get, and how much documentation do people send you? Are there long pitches that they come with complete games or whatnot? This is perhaps the game that we signed, or I signed, with the least amount of, I don't even know if you had an initial design document. It was just one line, basically. We talked about how StarCraft 2 is really fun, but it's really frustrating because either you kill the guy or he kills you. There's no gray area, basically. You either win or lose. And the idea behind the original design was, how can we get away from this and still have a great RTS experience? And we talked about how much fun Counter-Strike was when you're playing the games, or Call of Duty. When you play the games, you're in a match, you die, you respawn, you're back in the action. And this is essentially kind of a hybrid between those kind of things. It doesn't have base building, it doesn't have all that macro kind of gameplay, but it's about having a fun RTS experience.
Yeah, I mean, we actually got the idea when we were on a LAN party, and we wanted to play Company of Heroes, which is one of my favorite games. And instead we ended up playing Modern Warfare, and it's because it's so much easier and like less responsibility, and it's not so much pressure on the players. So
Exactly. You can jump in 5 minutes into the match, play 4 minutes, and then hey, you're out. You can't do that with StarCraft. And they're honestly separate games. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, the game that comes closest to this game, multiplayer-wise, is World in Conflict.
I haven't played the game myself,
essentially,
to be honest, but
yeah, you have a ticket system. You have a bunch of points. You spawn the units, and the more units you have, the less tickets you have, and then you basically duke it out. And there are rock paper scissors moments, and there are no bases, and you just fight it out in a similar fashion. I don't know if they have hot join, but it's in a similar fashion. Somebody asks, how Vanity Show asks, this will be fast-paced, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much fast-paced. We don't want it to be too explosive that your character gets like killed in a second when you enter the battlefield, but yeah, we want to be like fast that you can head into combat and kill stuff, and sure you can die pretty fast, but there's no like big like despair in that, because you just respawn and head back into combat. So we can make it pretty fast without it being too punishable.
Yeah. Somebody asks, I'm sorry, I missed your name. Somebody asked about customization, and I think you covered that a bit, but can you tell us more about how you create your contracts on layouts? And a big inspiration for you guys has been tabletop war games, right?
Yeah, I played a lot of tabletop games, so we really tried to get a lot of those aspects into the game, like that you can upgrade your units with different weapons and stuff like that. And in the contract you have these 6 slots for different boxes which you can spawn units with. You can also spawn turrets and other special devices like that, or you can use utility abilities, which could be like artillery and stuff. And each unit is also upgradable with a series of different units, different upgrades. We made the game really easy for us to add new upgrades and stuff like that, so that we can always make new upgrades and just try out fun stuff and try to find fun combinations and use our upgrades on many different units, so that you can really find this spec on the unit that you want to have. And there's also different gear for your commander that allows you to use different abilities, changes the weapon for your commander and stuff like that. So there's going to be a lot of customization going on. And on top of this, there is also 3 specs that you choose for your contract that grants like different global abilities.
Okay, we've got a couple of really good questions. Thorogrim asks, how tough will the heroes be? In Dawn of War 2, a commander unit with the right gear could take up multiple squads of enemies.
There are different commanders, so like the assault commander, he's mainly focused on being like tough in battle, so he could like take on a couple of units himself. But it's not gonna be like all about your hero, because your hero is still gonna be quite fragile, so you have to be careful about him. So you can't just rush too blindly into combat, because then you will get killed and your units will die as well. So we really want the units to matter.
Somebody asks the graphics quality. The game is currently in what state, and what kind of improvements can people see on the graphics side?
Oh, this is still pre-alpha.
Pre-alpha, people. Pre-alpha. the cameras.
So
pre-alpha.
There's going to be a lot of things going on, like the interface is going to get a whole rework, and there's going to be a lot of more particle effects and a lot of more units, and just a lot of things going on everywhere on the map, and like everything is going to be changed.
Somebody asks how much the game will cost. Maybe I can answer that.
Yeah, sure.
This is a game that when we signed it, or we started making the game, I think we had the same vision for the game. Again, it echoes, I think all of these games you'll see have the same formula. We want to start with, you're going to get tired of hearing me say this, we'll start with a small thing, and then we'll add layers on that depending on what kind of layers you want to see. The big difference between how we make games and what you see with AAA games and stuff is that, say, Assassin's Creed 3. While it probably will be a really good game, they made a plan for the game like 3 years ago, and they'll release the game, and they'll hope to God that the features that they designed or decided to make 3 years ago will be the ones that they actually want to see in the game. But we do it the opposite way. We just release something with a core gameplay that's really fun, and then we can give you the features that you actually want, instead of us trying to guess what you want years in advance. So coming back to the question, how much will this thing cost? It'll be low price, just like with Magica. We'll go for the lower price. And since it's a multiplayer game, it's all about you need to have a critical mass of players who find it fun, who find a core audience, and we'll like to get it out to as many people as possible, and then move on from there. So that's the idea. Okay, somebody asked what is pre-alpha A? I don't know what that means. Okay. Offline game mode, is that possible?
No, it's gonna be online only with dedicated servers.
Will you have LAN support?
Yeah, of course.
Of course. And why?
Or maybe...
Because we're not animals!
I hope so.
They're talking about the gameplay. How do you keep the gameplay from becoming repetitive?
There's gonna be a lot of things going on with the customizations that you can always develop your contracts and how you combine stuff, and there's also gonna be like how you develop as a player, that you get better at the game. Like some games like never develop, you can just keep playing them forever anyway, like Counter-Strike and stuff like that. But there's also gonna be a lot of meta evolvement going on with commander level at launcher level, so that you can level up your commander between the matches, which grants you new items and stuff like that you can play with. So hopefully it's gonna be a lot of time that you can spend in this game.
Are you on the blue team?
Yep, you're also on the blue team.
Aren't we losing horribly?
Yeah, it's because I can't play and talk at the same time. So it's pretty much 1 versus 2.
I see. So the myth is true. Moving on, we have a couple of questions about the maps. Can we talk anything about the variety of maps, environments?
Yeah, it's gonna be different planets like this one, and we're gonna try out for some other environments as well. They aren't really decided yet, but we're gonna try to make other like interesting exotic planets to play with. And there's gonna be a few maps. We're trying out with different game modes at the moment, so depending on how much that game mode differs from the one that we currently have, that affects how many maps there will be, because if it needs unique maps, it's gonna be fewer maps.
Yeah, maybe this question came up, but it always comes up when you talk about maps, and they talk about we just sell map packs. No, I can just promise you right now we won't be selling map packs, because the only thing map packs do is that they divide the player base, right?
Yeah.
And then instead of you having a game you really love, suddenly you have a game you really love that you can't play anymore. That was the experience for a lot of PC players on Modern Warfare, for instance. Like I got the map pack and you just suddenly couldn't play the game anymore. People are asking if we will be at PAX. No, that's the answer. Somebody asked, could you explain one more time how the unit generation and spawning and resources works, just so everybody's on the same page? So can you spawn infinite amounts of units?
No, you can't. Because the matches are pretty short, like 10 minutes, or always 10 minutes at the moment. You have to like maximize your population quite fast so that you can fight all the time. You don't have to build your base and spawn units for a very long time. So you have this blue bar down here, that's energy, which replenishes quite fast. So you can spawn like a couple of units at a time. But you want to do this before combat so that you have energy left for using utility abilities like this AoE heal here and stuff like that. So the energy is your most core resource that you use for most of your stuff. And then there is also the population cap, which you hit pretty fast, so that you will maximize your population in, I don't know, like 30 seconds or so, most of the cases. So that when a player connects to the server like 5 minutes into the game, he won't be behind, because he can catch up in 30 seconds. And then there is the scrap metal, which is like our kill streak reward resource. You get it for killing stuff, and you can use more powerful abilities like rocket strike, artillery and stuff like that.
How long will a off a match? How many minutes will a match take?
Maximum of 10 minutes.
Maximum 10 minutes. Are you planning to do any kind of like special rules, like I don't know, like artillery units only or just tanks only? Could you do that kind of battles? Like, can you do custom maps?
No.
Maybe something we can add to the future. In future, how hard would that be?
To add custom maps?
No, and like not custom made maps, but maps with custom rules.
So that you can set up your own server and
Yeah, exactly,
different
yeah.
game lengths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we're going to look into and try to get into the game.
More questions. How will the environments be? Can you interact with the environments? Is there destructible terrain?
No, we decided to not include that. We decided to focus on
Do
other
you
stuff
have a
instead.
cover system like in Company of Heroes or?
Nope.
Onward?
We wanted to go more like the more clean gameplay from like StarCraft in that aspect. That it's more about the units and how you use them.
Is the game deterministic in the same way that StarCraft is, or is it closer to the randomness that you would find in the Dawn of War series, for instance?
It's somewhere in between.
Okay.
So it's not. There is some random elements, but they are pretty slight.
Yeah.
Just to not have the exact thing going on all over again. So.
Yeah. I think that Robin Flodin, the CEO of your company, one of the pet peeves he told me that you guys had with the Dawn of War series was that, and I think that Arrowhead has the exact same pet peeve, and that's in Dawn of War when you click on that throw grenade button, he's like in mid animation, it takes half a second to get out of the animation, then he throws the grenade, and then that animation takes a second. So it's
yeah, we really want the game to be more responsive than that.
way more snappy than that. Somebody, the Angel asks, is the game noob friendly? Do you have to play a month to learn and understand anything? So tell us about the learning curve.
Yeah, we're trying to make the complete different opposite to that, like making the game very easy to get into and make it like, yeah, very very intuitive from the very start to both RTS players and players that are not RTS players as well. Yeah, that's what our focus is.
Will there be? What did you think about the tutorial missions in StarCraft 2, for instance? Do you remember those?
An enemy is
I
capturing
don't
an
play much
extraction
tutorials.
point.
Okay. Oh, you're a pro gamer. No, but what they did, which was a fairly good way to do tutorials, was that since the multiplayer in StarCraft is all about surviving a Zergling rush within a few minutes, for instance, so they had you practicing those kind of moves that you would be mimicking and actually making in the actual game. Get your economy up and running and stuff like that. So that's a fairly easy and cheap way to make tutorials instead of having like this big, heavy thing going on. But it actually teaches people how to play.
Yeah, I think that's really great, and we're gonna try to make a simple tutorial too that describes the basic elements of the game, so that new players can try that before actually heading into the server with other players that want to kill them.
Okay. Great. Somebody asked, what's the max number of units if you go down that route? Can you do? Is there a build where you can just, like in Warhammer, you can just go with cheap?
All forces move up.
Yeah, I think when we had a design walkthrough, when we started making the game to make like the tech specs, I think we ended up on like 18 individual units and then divided into like 4 different squads.
Okay.
So you can have it quite many units if you want, but.
Somebody asks,
An enemy is
why
capturing an
is the
extraction
game
point.
called Starvoid suddenly?
Starvoid is the resource in the game that you harvest from the
The enemy
those
team has
extraction
secured
points,
an
and it's used to fuel spaceships in warp travel.
Okay.
And
Why we changed the name? Because it's better. So
Yeah,
that's
only
the
because it's
only
better.
reason why we changed the name. It's better. So sometimes you mess up and you just change the name. So that's why we did it.
An enemy is capturing
Um,
an extraction point.
Is there are there any plans to add like a AI faction in the game, like no flying sharks.
No, it's gonna be multiplayer. Only
StarCraft
players.
has flying sharks. It seems StarCraft has done fairly well, and then has flying sharks.
We're not gonna have any flying sharks.
You heard it here first, people. No flying sharks. Okay, I think that we'll start wrapping up the game. Let's do some, again, wrap up basic facts for those that joined a bit late. So just give them a brief, the elevator pitch, and tell them when the game is coming out.
Yeah, so basically it's a real-time strategy game by gameplay, but the whole structure is going to be that from a first-person shooter with the high accessibility where you can just jump in and out of servers and play for as long as you want.
Okay.
So that's it.
Cool. And this game is being developed by a Swedish studio called Zeal.
An initial release in Q3.
Yeah, we're aiming for doing some kind of beta during the summer. So you guys, everybody listening on the stream, keep an eye out on the social media channels, the Paradox forum, the Facebook page for Starvoid, and the Twitter for Starvoid as well. And we'll do beta signups through that page, and you can start playing the game because it's a multiplayer game and we need your feedback, so it's really good. We'll keep asking questions and we'll come back to those later.